Canada's IOC Dick says no Tokyo Games would likely mean no Beijing Games. Well, maybe it's time to think about boycotting the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing. This is the Great White North Report. Canadian lawyer and longtime IOC member for Canada, Dick believes that the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics would be in jeopardy should the postponed Summer Games in Tokyo not be held next July. He talks of the knock-on effect should the CCP virus be a problem next summer in Japan. For one, think we should boycott the Beijing Olympics anyway. So what's going to happen if there's no vaccine and countries are unable to contain the pandemic that continues to rage in different regions of the world? Then the IOC would once again be forced to postpone or cancel the Tokyo Olympics. That would have a domino effect of taking out the Beijing Games as well, which are slated for February 4th to 20th, 6 months after the Tokyo Summer Games, which are being held in 2021. And it's all because of the CCP's fault anyway, that this all happened. Now, Dick is taking the political side of it for the moment, and he's trying to be looking at this objectively. But I think he should be saying that Canada should turn around and just boycott the games. Because after all, the political showdowns make things increasingly unstable, such as the situation in Hong Kong, the border dispute in India, an American election that has U.S.-China relations as one of the main issues. And for Canada, there are a lot of reasons. Now, U.S. President Trump has labeled the pandemic the China virus, and rightly so. I call it the CCP virus. And Trump maintained that China must be held accountable, and I fully agree. We have to make these guys pay for what they're doing, what they did. So there's not so much of a threat about the U.S. boycott of the games, but China could consider barring the U.S. from taking part if the country cannot gain control over the virus. And China could do that just to make things difficult for the U.S. After all, the U.S. is making things difficult for them right now, with good reason. The problem is, if the CCP virus is still raging next year, who wants to go to China to see it? Because China is a go-to country for mega events. They love the big spectacles. They'll spend billions of dollars on a spectacle to make themselves look good. And they don't have to worry about voting or referendums because it's an authoritarian state, so the people have no say what they do. China likes to use these big mega events to boost its image abroad. They're really good at making pageantry spectacles. Choreography involved, fine-tuned, detailed to the last minute detail, so that nothing goes wrong and it makes them look good. And of course, having the Olympics would also deflect reporters' attentions because they'd be more interested in the sporting events than digging around at all the other stuff that goes on in China. So why should Canada boycott the 2022 Olympics? First of all, it all starts off with the CCP virus. We all know that the CCP covered up the virus for at least 6 crucial days at least, if not longer. And even though they banned people from leaving Wuhan, they didn't ban international flights out of that city, which helped spread because people were infected, got on these flights. Anyone who could get out of the city did during those crucial few days before the lockdown took place. And a lot of them took international flights, and they spread it all across the world. Who knows how long the CCP virus had been going around, but the fact is they tried to cover it up. They've also attempted to shift blame for the virus to the United States, Italy, Africa, whoever. And countries who have close ties with the Communist Party also had high CCP virus rates. Iran, Italy, who knows about Pakistan, North Korea, or Russia. So that's the first reason to boycott the 2022 Olympics, just because of this pandemic, which is grinding life to a halt. Secondly, ever since we arrested Meng the Merciless Wanzhou back in December 2018, China and the CCP went on a knee-jerk reaction, detained, arrested, and later charged with violating the national security laws Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, 2 Canadians who really didn't do anything wrong, put in prison, probably tortured. They were officially charged with espionage last June. Are they guilty? No. What they are is hostages. The CCP has been trying hard to get us to release Meng the Merciless Wanzhou, and they're using these 2 guys as leverage. And it's not working, because if we release Meng Wanzhou, then we're going to piss off the United States, and it's going to encourage other groups and countries to take Canadian hostages to get concessions. And there's no guarantee that if we ever did release Meng the Merciless, that the CCP would immediately release Kovrig and Spavor. They might keep them in prison for a little while longer, just to make us sweat or get extra concessions. Hong Kong. For over a year now, Hong Kong has been seething with resentment over the CCP. The CCP was supposed to give Hong Kong 50 years of its normal freedoms that they've always enjoyed. 50 years isn't much to ask for. It's only been 23 years since the handover. They had 27 more to go. And then they could have walked in and did whatever, and they would have had the international law on their side. After all, they have a treaty with the UK. They've totally broken their agreements with the UK, always gone against any international agreements. They can't be trusted. So why are we trusting them? Going back to Spavor and Coventry, we're going to send our athletes, coaches, family members, and any people who want to see at games in Beijing, like normal tourist stuff, Canadians. We're going to let them go. What happens if one of them says something bad about Xi Jinping, criticizes the CCP while they're over there, or has a free Hong Kong t-shirt? They're going to get arrested too, and we're going to have more Canadians like that. Then, of course, you got the Uyghurs in Xinjiang province. The Uyghurs are Muslims. There are about 1 million of them in concentration camps. They call them re-education camps. Basically, it's a concentration camp. And it's a cultural genocide. I'm surprised Muslims all over the world aren't taking up arms over this. Mainly because they're afraid of the CCP, because the CCP will hit back hard. Unlike the United States, which usually does things with one hand behind their back. So Canadian Muslims should be saying, yeah, why boycott the 2022 Olympics because of what's going on with the Uyghurs. Also, this has Christians are persecuted, Falun Gong is persecuted, political dissidents are persecuted, and in a lot of cases there's also what's called illegal organ harvesting goes on in the CCP. It's so easy to get an organ donor. If you need a liver or a kidney, it doesn't take long to get one in China, as opposed to here where it takes months if not years to find a match. Over in China, it's easy. Which brings us back to Canada. Like when we arrested the Meng the Merciless Guangzhou from Huawei, the CCP started playing economic games with us. They put a ban on our pork products up until their own pork got hit massively by the swine flu and wiped out herds of pigs over there. Stopped banning our pork products. We should have raised the price immediately after that. Then they started hurting our canola farmers, putting bans and restrictions on our canola farmers. You know, this hurts them in a way that they're not feeding their people as best as they can. But I, for one, think our canola farmers should be looking for new markets outside of China and new crops as well. Just recently, last month, 2020, Canadian lobster exports to China have been disrupted. They're blaming lobsters on having the CCP coronavirus in the lobsters because they found traces of the CCP virus at a wet market in Beijing or somewhere like that. I've been to China. It's not the cleanest place in the world. They don't exactly clean their wet markets very good. Then Canadians will speak out against China or silence, like this Canadian beauty queen a few years ago. Anastasia Lin was forbidden to attend the 65th annual Miss World pageant in China where she was born. She's been known to speak out against human rights abuse in China, and having her with there wasn't going to fly. So she couldn't go. Just because she criticized the CCP, and they cannot stand criticism. And she's not the only Canadian that's happened to. And this goes beyond us. It even goes to our sports, like the Houston Rockets owner. He supported Hong Kong. The CCP decided to cancel a couple of NBA games. And the NBA got all scared because they're going to stand to lose $1 billion. So they bent the knee to the CCP and condemned the owner, made him recant, and they're sucking up the CCP. So these are all reasons I think Canada should boycott the 2022 Olympics. Any Canadians out there, let me know what you guys think, or any other countries. I'm all for boycotting the Olympics and having it our own Olympics in Vancouver and inviting whoever wants to come. Anyway, until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.